Hey, Jonathan Johnson here with the Johnson firm, joined again by Erin Abrams, a partner at our firm. We've been talking about some videos, some of our prior videos, talking about some of the confusion surrounding restraining orders.
Right.
Then we shot a video on restraining orders that you should really be concerned with, which are the protective orders under Title 46. I kind of want this one just to be kind of a catch-all.
Sure.
Okay, it's going to be the things that we didn't hit in some of the other videos, but it is important for people to know, and it certainly can be situations that they face. So we'll kind of go through it just to kind of hit the high notes on it and get into the weeds a little bit on who can file what and in what court you have to file these things, and when you can file a Title 46 versus a Title 9 versus going into the Code of Civil Procedure under Title 3601, not
Right.
Title 3601, Article
Article.
3601.
Right.
What kind of actions can be prohibited? Stalking, cyber stalking.
Yeah.
We've seen this a lot with the rise of social media,
A lot.
that oh, they're out there constantly talking about me, they're saying negative things about me, what can I do? Can I stop this?
Yeah.
And we've had some success with that. So for better or worse, we're going to call this the catch-all.
Sure.
The first question I had for you is, we talked about in the prior video the specific protective orders under Title 46,
Right.
the Family Violence, Post-Separation Family Violence Act,
That's right.
all of those articles that are trying to address the very significant and real problem of domestic abuse, things that happen in the home. There's countless studies that tell us, the stuff that happens in the home is the stuff that people are not aware of. The general crime, abuse, fights, and things that we see in the world, they get caught and they get reported
Right.
way more often than domestic abuse. So we have that Title 46, but we talked about some of the actions that it prohibited. We talked about some of the consequences. What we didn't talk about was who's eligible
Right.
to apply for protection under Title 46. So
Yeah.
I know you've gotten all into that area of the law. I know, in our firm, you're the expert on this. So just let's talk a little bit about who can go through that process.
Sure. Yeah. So within Title 46, there are different kinds of protective orders. Okay. And there's a specific section of Title 46 for family court. These are for domestic orders of protection. Okay. And in order to be eligible for one of those, you have to have a certain familial relationship with the defendant. Okay. So we're talking either current spouse, ex-spouse. You can be an ex-dating partner, a current dating partner, child, mother, father, adult.
Household member.
Household member, that's right. You need some kind of connection that's very clearly defined in that area of the law. But absent that familial connection, absent that household member definition applying to you and the defendant, there are other sections of Title 46 that are handled just in civil court. Okay, so family court is civil court, but it's a specialized area. So when we go back to general civil court, we're talking about actions like cyber stalking, like dating violence. Those are in Title 46, but they're separate from these ones specifically for family members. So a really good example I give on the stalking protective order is, let's say it's not an ex, it's not someone you're currently dating, it's no one you've ever called a boyfriend or girlfriend, you haven't introduced them to your family, you've gone on 2 dates. And this person won't leave you alone. They're texting, calling, driving by your house, showing up unannounced. That is stalking. Now, you're not precluded from filing a protective order because it's not your ex or it's not your boyfriend or your dating partner. There's this specific area of law for that kind of relationship, which in its own can be just as important, as these other kinds of domestic protective orders. Just as scary.
Yeah. I mean, let's take it even a step further. You never dated this person. You've never even really interacted with them. They found your social media page.
That's right.
And decided to start, DMing you.
That's right.
And then, hey, they showed up, to where you work, or they delivered
right.
flowers, or they're just really aggressive about their desire to form some relationship with you. And, you don't want to have and of course, the law is not going to allow you to be out there with no protection from something like this. And they're not going to say, oh, well, did you date this person? No.
Right.
Oh, well, you can't file anything. Were you married to them? No, you can't file anything. They're not going to exclude you. They're going to give you an avenue for
That's
doing
right.
it. But I want to talk about this because this is pretty interesting to me.
Sure.
This is not something that people know. And I'm not talking about general people. I'm talking about lawyers and particularly judges. Okay. When we file a Title 46 protective order, all right, and we've filed several of these, that are not under the definition of the family relationship.
That's right.
Okay, it is completely outside that. And we're sending it across the street, not to the specialized family court, but over to the normal general jurisdiction court, civil court. I mean, we've had those things kicked back from the
Absolutely.
judges. Hey, this is supposed to be over in family court. Like,
Absolutely.
they are completely, not all of them,
Right.
but a lot of them are completely unaware that this exists.
Yeah, it's a smaller sliver of this
It's
title.
nuanced. It's a
nuanced.
niche.
It is. And a lot of times if the judges or if lawyers or if, just lay people aren't knowing to do this analysis of what's the relationship between the parties,
Yeah.
these protective orders would never go anywhere because of that. And the way I kind of explain it to clients too that don't necessarily understand, we haven't really talked much about what actions are
Right.
covered under protective orders, right? So we've kind of mentioned stalking and cyber stalking, but what does that mean to a layperson?
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Is it
Those
just
are-
like,
those are
oh,
ju- those are
he's
just words.
DMing me,
Yeah.
right? It's something more than that. There's got to be some threat of violence or threat of physical abuse or threat of death or
Or following you around
that's
repeatedly.
right. That's right. Or basically anything that's classified as a crime against the person in our criminal code. Okay. That's where we're seeing this intersect again between criminal law and civil
Right.
law. And so if it's one of those actions occurring, even though you don't have the familial relationship, you've still got protection.
Right. I literally, and again, the first time that I did this, I went to you and I was like, hey, I've got this cyber stalking issue. I know you've had one of these. I know you've researched all of this. Give me the
Yeah.
information. And we broke it down and you were able to explain, yes, it's going to be filed over here. It's not going to be in family court. I literally had to walk that through to get it signed. Not send it with the runner or with our
Right.
normal pleadings that we send over to the courthouse, because when I sent over the first time, the judge's office wouldn't take it because they thought it needed to be in family court, and I had to go and explain.
Right.
Look, here's I had to do basically the same thing you did to me.
Sure.
To say, hey, this is where this goes. This is the definition. This is why I filed it over here. No, I'm not
in the right place.
No, I'm not crazy.
Right.
I'm following the law.
Right.
And then once they saw it, they're like, yeah, you're right. And
Absolutely.
so they execute it, and we had our hearing. But when I got to my hearing, I had to explain to the motion hour judge, who was a different judge than the judge that signed the order,
Right.
why we were on this side of the street. It's the
Right.
first question you had. Why are y'all over here instead of in
Right.
family court?
Yeah, a lot of times they see spouses or ex-spouses or they see there's kids and we kind of see this with law enforcement sometimes too of like, that's family court.
Right.
We can't do anything there. It's a specialized area.
So under Title 46, there are these specific definitions of who can file what actions and which court they need to be filed
Correct.
in. If you don't meet those, it doesn't mean you don't have any other protection.
Right.
It just means you're going to be having to file it under one of these specific actions that are
Correct.
allowed for, and you need to file it across the street I keep saying across the street.
Civil court.
Yeah, in Calcasieu Parish, our family court is on this side of the street, and on this side of the street is our the rest of the general jurisdiction court.
Right.
So it comes kind of our habit to say, oh, we need to send that across the street,
Mm.
but you need to file it in the right court.
That's right. Yeah. And the relationship between the parties is what's going to tell you where's the correct court. And then the facts of what happened will tell you what kind of protective order or other protection am I eligible for.
Right. So you got these protections under Title 46. We've talked about stalking. We've talked about cyber stalking. We've also talked about these crimes against the person
Mhm.
that are defined under Title 14.
Right.
The criminal statutes. This is the criminal code that has, hey, these are defined as crimes against the person. And they have all of them except, I think, defamation is excluded.
Correct.
So, somebody can still say mean things about you. And
And that's not what cyberstalking is, to be clear. It's
That's
not just saying mean things.
That's right. And again, that's why it's important. We hammer this in every one of these videos. If you're going through one of these situations, book a consult with an attorney that does this. Run your situation by them and say, all right, can you help me or can you not?
Right.
Okay. Because generally speaking, if you're facing some sort of harassment, if someone is stalking you or if someone is abusing you, there is going to be a protection allowed for that in the law.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
It's not just going to be a situation where they're going to leave you out there on your own.
Right.
Okay. But you have to have an attorney that has the knowledge in this area and the experience in that area to say, okay, your story, your facts meet this area of the law, and here's the procedure for doing it, and I can do that.
Correct.
All right. If we're not talking about that, if we're talking about, and I'm going to give the classic example
Sure.
of this, okay, and I've had 3 of these cases in my career. It's not something that comes up a lot, but I have had 3 of them, and I've had to try one of them.
Mhm.
Neighbor dispute.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Okay. We have, fences make good neighbors, but we got two that are going at it and it's now in a feud of
Yeah.
some sort. And somebody does something that rises to the level of some sort of harassment. Maybe that's a physical altercation.
Sure.
There's no allegation of stalking or any of these things. There is just, hey, we're neighbors and I'm getting harassed and I want to stop them from doing something.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
There's a specific area in the law that is a very broad and very
Definitely.
general injunction statute, and
Definitely.
it's Code of Civil Procedure Article 3601.
That's right.
Um, Tell me a little bit about what that is. It's kind of the catch-all or the default.
Hmm.
If you can't find one of these very specialty statutes,
Right.
you can fall under this.
Yeah, you actually see these a lot also in businesses. You see
Yeah,
they're very
absolutely.
commonplace. Okay, so it's a very very limited action that the person applying for this injunction asks the court, "Hey, I will suffer immediate irreparable harm." Irreparable harm is the key word from this act by this other party if the court doesn't intervene.
Right.
So right now, intervene, put a pause button on it all, and then we can figure out if this injunction, this prohibition, has to be permanent or if it's something that we can resolve otherwise.
And that procedure that we talked about before of there being a temporary restraining order,
Hmm.
then a hearing that has to happen
Hmm.
within so many days,
Hmm.
and that being your preliminary injunction. And then if that's granted, it lasts for such a
Right.
longer period of time, many, many months. And you then can file for your permanent injunction. And you'd mentioned it in business. I had a case a long time ago where there was a non-compete
Mhm.
agreement. And the person that was subject to the non-compete went and opened a business that
Mm.
was directly competing.
Sure.
Okay. And I didn't represent the business that filed the injunction. I represented the guy who had opened the business, and he
Mhm.
brings it to me, and they had filed an injunction to shut down his competing
Yeah.
business. Just have the sheriff go put locks on the door.
Yeah.
Okay. An extreme action.
Absolutely
Okay.
it is.
And we went through a period of about 3 or 4 hours with not knowing whether the judge was going to sign that or was not. Fortunately for him, he didn't. He was still allowed to operate.
Yeah.
Judge ultimately decided the harm that they were alleging wouldn't be irreparable because it was a business and you
Dollar
can
amount.
always pay money
That's right.
if they proved up their case. But that's the catch-all nature of it, is that you see it in businesses when you say, I want you to be enjoined from
Mhm.
operating your business.
Yeah.
Same thing with this neighbor dispute. I want you to be enjoined from contacting me
Right.
to coming onto my property to continue to do the
Putting
things
up
that
your
you're doing.
cameras or whatever
Yeah,
it is.
whatever it
Yeah.
is. So if you don't meet one of these others, but the allegations are that you're going to suffer immediate, and
Mhm.
there's a time element,
Mhm.
and irreparable harm, then there's still going to be a catch-all
Definitely.
provision where we can say, hey, there's still something here we can go to court on if you need this form of protection.
Absolutely. And yeah, so just to kind of summarize again for the viewers, you've got two kinds of protective orders. You've got your Title 46 and your Title 9. Under that, we have we have civil stay away orders, we have temporary orders, we have preliminary orders. You can get this 3601 injunction
Mhm.
that we're talking about. And then way down somewhere else, like we talked about in our prior videos, are your community property
Right.
injunctions and your non-harassment injunctions.
One thing I will say that we hadn't really talked about is the issue of bond.
Mm.
Title 46, all of the domestic abuse articles of anything in family court or even across the street in civil
Mhm.
court under Title 46, Title 9, 361. None of those are going to require the person applying for the injunction or the restraining order to put up a bond. And well, let me tell you what a bond is.
That's right.
Bond is an amount of money that they put up that if you don't prove your allegations, that basically other person gets as damages
Right.
for you interfering with their ability to conduct their life for whatever period of time that temporary restraining order is
Correct.
in place before they can get to court and be heard.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that 3601, that catch-all provision,
Yeah.
the one that is used in business and used in all these different contexts, it does require the person to post a bond.
Absolutely.
And
And
that's
some of
probably
that difference in Title 46, like we were talking about in our other video, the legislature had done an overhaul on these domestic violence statutes to make this process more accessible to victims. And
right.
another thing they've done in that is not requiring a bond. You don't have to pay upfront court costs to
Right.
file. Okay.
And unless your actions found to be completely frivolous,
Correct.
you can't even be assessed with the court cost at the end.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Correct.
it's let's say, you're in that 46 and you get served with it, you go to court, you prove, and the judge ultimately says, yeah, I mean, I see I see why they filed this, but I don't think it quite rises to the
Sure.
level. I'm going to deny the protective order.
We're paying costs.
She, he, whoever files
Yeah.
it doesn't get cast with the court cost.
Right.
You may still end up paying the cost. And they
Right.
say, unfortunately, sir, I just don't have the ability to
Awarded. Yeah.
award cost against
That's
the
right.
other party.
Right. Yeah. And so that's where we kind of differ when we're going back to this catch-all injunction of 3601. That's where it's different. You do have court costs.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not protections because we're not dealing with domestic violence here. And you have this bond that you're talking about
Right.
as well. Yeah.
So the last thing I'm going to say, since this is the catch-all,
Yeah.
is that in all of these 3 videos or 4 videos that we've shot related to protective orders, I default to saying she files and he defends, right? And that is not in any way, shape, form, or fashion to indicate that only victims of domestic violence are women, or only the perpetrators are men, or only these protections are for the numbers are overwhelming as it relates to the victims of domestic violence versus male, female.
Right.
So that's where we see it the most. And so my language gets a little lazy with that, but I want to be really clear. There are studies that show the percentages on abusers that are women and victims that are men. We have same-sex couple relationships
Right.
where, there's going to be a he and a he on both sides of it. So both are going to be either a victim or
Right.
an abuser. Same thing with women relationships. So I don't want my laziness in my pronouns
Sure.
to confuse anybody. This is a real issue. There are real protections provided under the law. And if you have been the victim of one of these things, then you need to seek out, informed, very knowledgeable counsel that can give you all of the lay of the land as to where you fit in all of these different things that we've
That's
talked
right.
about.
And not just those protections, but resources for what to do after.
Yeah,
Like
for
you
sure.
got out of the situation, great. Now what?
Yeah, right. Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
You lost. You won your protective order. Either it was granted or you successfully defended yourself.
Hmm.
But we have kids together, and we're still
Right.
married. And what?
Who gets the house?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Can I go back home?
Yeah.
All of these questions are part of the process of representing someone that's going through this, is having answers for them on all of that. And
Yeah.
I know you spend a lot of time with your clients talking about that stuff and informing them. So, it's not like, hey, we won, see you later. It's
Right.
okay.
That's just the beginning.
This was step 1.
That's right.
Now let's talk about where we go from here.
That's right.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
okay, I think we hit it. Appreciate y'all's attention. Like I said, we're the Johnson firm right here in Lake Charles, Louisiana. We handle these types of cases. If you are facing something like this and you have questions, we'd be happy to meet with you, talk to you about it. And we appreciate you checking us out, and check out our other videos. There's some good information out there. We're going to continue to post things like this, just so there's a resource out there for people that are going through these situations to find some general information and, an under 15-minute soundbite. So appreciate your attention. Thanks. Hey, we appreciate you watching that video. If you have other questions about other legal topics, check out our website, johnsonfirmla.com, or our YouTube page. We put out material all of the time in the areas of family law, personal injury, and criminal defense. We really appreciate you checking us out. Thanks so much.